My beloved child, have you ever realized why the doors you have been pounding on with bleeding knuckles? The promotion that would finally validate years of being overlooked. The relationship that would silence the ache of loneliness. The breakthrough that would prove to everyone who doubted you that you were never as small as they believed, have remained stubbornly, impossibly closed, not because I have been deaf to your knocking, but because I have been strengthening the shoulders that would need to carry what lies on the other side. And you have been so fixated on the hinges that refuse to move that you never noticed the weight I was quietly, deliberately adding to your frame in the waiting room you have mistaken for a prison. Not because your prayers lacked the right words, as though the throne room of heaven operated on a currency of flawless rhetoric, and I were a reluctant king who could be persuaded only by perfectly crafted arguments. Not because you have not earned the open door, as though my love were a wage calculated by human performance rather than an inheritance sealed by the blood of my son, but because a bridge that will carry the weight of an army cannot rest on pylons driven ankle deep into untested soil, and the foundation I have been building beneath the surface of your life is the only thing that will keep you standing when the weight of glory finally arrives and the world watches to see whether you will buckle beneath it. The journals you have filled with the same request, page after page, year after year, the dates blurring, the handwriting shifting as seasons passed, the faith flickering and returning like a candle in wind, are not a record of my refusal. They are a chronicle of the most profound preparation any soul can undergo. The slow, invisible forging of a vessel that can hold what I am about to pour into it without shattering from the sheer weight of the blessing. And today I am going to tell you the truth about what I have been doing in the silent years. The years you have called wasted, the years you have named abandonment, and why the closed door was never rejection, but the most deliberate, loving protection I have ever extended over your life. My servant James understood this mystery when he wrote in James 1:2-4, "Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing." My child, pause and let those words settle into the marrow of your spirit. Joy in the trial itself, not merely in the distant hope of its ending. Steadfastness, not as a burden to be endured with gritted teeth, but as the very mechanism through which I am making you complete, a vessel lacking nothing essential for the purpose I designed you to carry before the foundation of the world. Imagine a swordsmith standing before his forge, the fire roaring at a temperature that would consume anything less resilient than the steel he has chosen with deliberate care. He does not apologize for the heat. He does not flinch when the blade glows white-hot beneath the flame. He grips the metal with steady hands and brings down the hammer. Once, twice, a rhythm older than any calendar. And every strike that looks to the untrained eye like destruction is actually the removal of every impurity, every structural weakness, every invisible flaw that would cause the blade to snap in the very moment it was needed most. Then when the shaping is complete, he plunges the glowing steel into freezing water, and the violent hiss, the cloud of steam that rises like a dying breath, is not the sound of ruin. It is the sound of strength being locked into the metal at a molecular level, a transformation that can never be achieved without the shock of the cold. You have felt the hammer fall. You have gasped at the sudden plunge into water that stole your breath and made you certain you would not survive the quenching. But I have been forging a blade in you that will not break, and the very trials you have begged me to remove were the only instruments sharp enough to cut away everything that would have failed you in the battle ahead. My beloved child, the wisest king who ever drew breath, my servant Solomon, penned words in Proverbs 3:5-6 that have lost none of their power in the centuries since his quill first touched parchment. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. Do you see what I am asking of you? Not that you would understand the path. I explicitly command you to release your grip on your own understanding as though it were a reliable compass. Not that you would map out the journey in advance and approve every turn before you take a single step, but that you would trust, not the visibility of the road, not the predictability of the terrain, not the absence of danger, but trust in me, the one who carved the path before you drew your first breath. A lighthouse is not built in a single afternoon. Its foundation must be driven down to bedrock, sometimes through water, sometimes through stone that resists every attempt to penetrate it. And the years of construction happen in obscurity, far from the shoreline, before a single beam of light ever sweeps across the waves. The sailors who will one day navigate safely through storms that would have dashed their ships against the rocks will never know the name of the builder who spent years in the dark, cold water laying stones no one would ever see. They will only see the light, and they will call it salvation, never realizing that the years of unseen labor were the price of every life that light would one day save. You are that lighthouse still under construction, still in the season when the visible structure has not yet risen above the waterline. And the people who will one day find their way home because of your light do not need you to rush the building. They need you to let me finish what I have started. My child, here is a revelation that will reframe every closed door you have ever wept before. When a potter sits at his wheel with a lump of clay that has collapsed, the walls that were rising beautifully one moment suddenly caving inward the next, the shape that was taking form now a formless mass again. He does not throw the clay away in frustration. He does not declare it worthless and reach for a fresh lump from a different batch. He presses it down. He centers it again. He wets his hands and begins the spinning once more. And the clay that seemed ruined beyond recovery becomes, in his patient hands, a vessel of greater beauty and strength than the first attempt could ever have produced. The collapse was never failure. It was the potter's opportunity to start again with clay that had been softened by its first encounter with the wheel. And what emerges from the second shaping carries a depth, a resilience, a capacity that the first attempt could never have achieved. Every time your plans have collapsed, every door that swung shut just as you reached for the handle, every opportunity that dissolved like mist the moment you stepped toward it, I was not punishing your failure. I was centering you again, wetting my hands, beginning the spinning once more with clay that had been made softer, more pliable, more ready to receive the shape I had always intended. A shape that would have been impossible without the collapse you mistook for rejection. My beloved child, I spoke through my servant Paul in Philippians 1:6, a promise that has never once wavered, never once been withdrawn, never once been rendered void by your weakness or the passage of time. He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. Notice the word I chose, carry, not merely initiate, as though I lit a spark and then stepped back to see whether the fire would sustain itself through the wind and rain of a fallen world. Not merely assist, as though the weight of your becoming were divided equally between your effort and mine, and the outcome hung in the balance of your ability to hold up your end. I said I would carry it, the full weight, the entire process, every season, every setback, every moment when you were certain you had exhausted my patience. An eagle does not build a nest and then abandon her young to figure out flight on their own. When the time comes, and she knows exactly when, with an instinct I myself wove into her being, she stirs the nest. She removes the soft lining. She makes the place that was comfortable suddenly, jarringly uncomfortable. And the young eagles who have never flown, who have never left the only home they have ever known, feel the sharp twigs beneath their feet and cry out in confusion. Is she abandoning them? Has she stopped loving the ones she sheltered for so long? No, she is teaching them to fly. The stirring of the nest is not rejection, but the very first flight lesson. The gift that will carry them above the mountains she has known all her life, and into skies they have only glimpsed from the safety of the only branch they have ever called home. I am stirring your nest, not because I have stopped loving you, but because you were never made to stay there forever. And the sky has been waiting for you since the day I first spoke your name. So I bless you now, my beloved child. I bless you with eyes to see the closed door not as a locked vault hiding a treasure I have decided to withhold, but as the loving boundary of a father who will not let his child walk through a gate she is not yet strong enough to carry. I bless you with the courage to stop pounding on the hinges and start pressing into the one who has been strengthening your shoulders in the very waiting room you have tried so desperately to escape. I bless you with the grace to embrace the hammer and the quenching water, not because I delight in your pain, but because the blade I am forging in you will outlast every battle and every storm and every enemy that has ever risen against the purposes I planted in your soul before time began. When the door finally swings open, and it will, for no door I have closed will remain shut one moment longer than your preparation requires. You will walk through it not as the fragile soul who first began knocking, but as a vessel forged in fire, tested in water, shaped on the potter's wheel, and carried every step of the way by the one who has never once abandoned a work he began with his own hands. And on that day you will look back at every closed door and whisper, not rejection, the most exquisite preparation I could never have designed for myself. My beloved child, do you know what I have been quietly transforming while you have been begging me to change the world around you? The circumstances, the closed doors, the people who wounded you, the answers that never seem to arrive? Have you ever realized that the most profound miracle I perform in a waiting season is rarely the one you are watching for, and almost always the one happening inside the very eyes you used to watch? My word declares, do not be conformed to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. I have watched you staring at your situation from the same exhausted angle for months, for years, replaying the same disappointments through the same worn-out lens until every delay looked like proof of my absence, and every closed door screamed abandonment into the silence. You have been wearing glasses smeared with the fingerprints of past pain, squinting through lenses ground by grief and polished by disappointment, and then blaming the landscape for looking dark when the darkness was never in the world around you at all. I have not been ignoring your pleas for change. I have been answering a deeper prayer you did not know how to speak, the prayer for new eyes. And today I'm going to tell you the truth about what I have been doing while you thought I was doing nothing. Because the greatest gift I offer in the fire is not always the exit from the flames, but the transformation of the eyes that finally recognize I have been walking through them beside you the entire time. My child, imagine a man holding a pair of glasses covered in oil and ash, the residue of every explosion he has survived, every fire he has stumbled through, every grief that has pressed its dirty hands against the only lens through which he views his entire existence. Through those smeared lenses, every face looks like a threat. Every delay looks like a dead end. Every silence looks like rejection, because the lens is shaping what he sees before his mind has even had a chance to interpret the image. I have watched you doing exactly this for longer than you realize. The betrayals of your past have stained the glass through which you view every new relationship. The unanswered prayers have clouded the lens through which you interpret every new season of stillness. And the tragedy is not that the landscape around you is truly hopeless. The tragedy is that you have been viewing a sunrise through glasses that make it look like midnight, and then concluding with absolute certainty that the sun has stopped rising and never will again. My word says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. I am not asking you to abandon your mind or surrender your reason. I am asking you to acknowledge that your understanding, shaped by pain, limited by time, clouded by every wound you have ever carried, was never designed to be the final authority over what you believe about my character. The glasses must be cleaned, the lens must be renewed, and that renewal is not a single dramatic moment that happens once and never needs repeating. It is the daily, quiet, transformative work of letting my word wash away every smear the world has left on your vision. One fingerprint of pain at a time, one layer of disappointment after another, until the sunrise you refuse to believe in finally blazes across your horizon in colors you had forgotten existed. Now let me show you a photograph developing in a darkroom, because this image holds the secret to everything you have been calling wasted. My child, in the old way of developing photographs, the image did not appear instantly. A blank piece of paper was submerged in a chemical bath, and at first there was nothing. Pure white emptiness, no shape, no face, no evidence that anything had ever been captured on that surface at all. A person without patience would have pulled it out after 10 seconds and declared it empty. A failure, a waste of expensive paper and precious time that could never be recovered. But the photographer who understood the process knew to wait. Slowly, so slowly you could not detect the change from 1 second to the next. Shadows began to deepen across the paper, like dawn creeping across a sleeping landscape. Outlines began to sharpen. Features that were always hidden in the emulsion began to emerge. Not because anything new was being added from the outside, but because the chemicals were faithfully revealing what had been captured on that paper from the very first flash of light that struck it. My word declares, the unfolding of your words gives light. It gives understanding to the simple. The image of my faithfulness was captured on your life the moment I first called you by name and claimed you as my own. But it has been developing in the darkness of your waiting, and you have been trying to read a photograph that was not yet finished revealing itself. Every morning you spend in my word, every quiet moment of prayer when no one else is watching, every act of trust when trust makes no human sense. These are not empty rituals performed in a void. These are the chemicals in the darkroom, faithfully and patiently drawing out of your life the image of my glory that has always been there, waiting to be revealed in my perfect timing. The darkness was never the enemy of the photograph. The darkness was the very condition the photograph required to become visible. Now consider Paul's prayer for the Ephesians, because these words contain the very thing I have been working to give you through every single day of your waiting season. My child, Paul did not pray that the Ephesians would escape their trials. He did not kneel in his own prison cell and beg me to stop Rome from persecuting them or to swing every closed door wide open on command. He prayed on his knees with tears from a place of suffering he understood far too well, that the eyes of your heart may be enlightened. Not the eyes of your head, not your intellectual comprehension of theological facts you could recite from memory. The eyes of your heart, the deep inner vision that determines whether you see every circumstance through the lens of my faithfulness or through the lens of your fear. You have been begging me to change what you see. I have been answering by changing how you see, because a heart that learns to recognize my presence in the darkness will never walk blindly again, even when the outward circumstances remain completely, painfully, stubbornly unchanged. Imagine standing in the deepest wilderness at midnight, far from every city light, the kind of darkness so complete you cannot see your own hand trembling in front of your face. At first, you see nothing but blackness and feel nothing but the cold grip of fear tightening around your chest. But if you stay there long enough, if you stop fighting the darkness and simply let your eyes adjust, something remarkable begins to happen. Stars that were invisible in the daylight begin to emerge one by one, then by the hundreds, then by the thousands, until the entire sky is blazing with light that was always there, but could only be seen in the absence of every other source of illumination. This is exactly what I have been doing in your waiting. The darkness you have resented has become the very backdrop against which the stars of my faithfulness are finally becoming visible. And once you have seen the night sky from this sacred vantage point, you will never again mistake darkness for emptiness, because you will know that some lights can only be seen when every lesser light has been taken away. So now here is my blessing over you, my child. The one who has been viewing a masterpiece through lenses smeared with ash and calling it ugly. The one who pulled the photograph out of the chemical bath too soon and called it blank. The one who has been staring at the midnight sky and calling it empty while I have been filling it with stars you could not yet see. May you finally receive the new eyes I have been forming in you through every single day of this season you were ready to call wasted. May you learn to look at the same circumstances that once filled you with despair and see, not because the circumstances have changed, but because you have. My fingerprints pressed into every surface, my faithfulness woven through every delay, my presence burning in every darkness like stars that were always there, waiting only for your eyes to adjust. And may you discover, perhaps for the first time, that the prayer I have been most eager to answer was never the one that begged me to change your life. It was the prayer you barely dared to whisper at 3 a.m, the one that asked me to change your heart, to renew your mind, to give you the kind of vision that can recognize my goodness even when every visible reason to believe in it has been stripped away and the darkness has never felt more complete. Now I want you to do something. Go to the comments below and write this prayer. Father, renew my mind and heal my vision. Teach me to see my circumstances through the lens of your faithfulness rather than the lens of my fear. I trust what you are developing in the darkness, even before I can see the image you are revealing. Write it not as empty religious words, but as the first honest surrender of old smeared lenses you are finally ready to release into the hands that have been waiting to give you new ones. I am reading every word. I am right here, closer than the breath you just drew. And the same light that has been faithfully developing the image of my Son in the depths of your soul will not stop its work until every shadow has been transformed into a testimony of the God who sees, who stays, and who has never once looked away from the masterpiece he is still shaping in the hidden, holy dark room of your waiting. My beloved child, do you know what I am actually doing in the years between the promise and the fulfillment? Have you ever realized that the waiting is not a hallway you pass through, but a classroom where I am shaping the very person who will one day hold the gift? My word says, though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay. You have prayed until your knees memorize the floorboards. You have trusted until trust itself felt like a fraying rope, stretched across an abyss with no visible anchor on the other side. You have watched others receive what you are still begging for. The spouse, the child, the healing, the open door, while your own hands remain empty and your own ears ring with silence. And today I'm going to tell you the truth about what I am building in you during the delay. Because the waiting is not a waiting room. It is a workshop, and I have never once wasted a single second of it. My child, think of a seed buried in cold black soil. For months, sometimes years, nothing visible happens. The seed does not see the sun. It does not feel the wind. It sits in the dark, silent and still, while the world above assumes nothing is happening. But underground, where no one can applaud and no one can measure progress, the shell is softening. The embryo is stirring. Tiny roots are pressing outward, feeling their way through the darkness, building the foundation that will one day hold up a tree that reaches toward heaven. If you dug up the seed every week to check on it, you would kill it. The darkness is not its enemy. The darkness is the only place where germination can happen. My word says, wait for the Lord. Be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord. What looks like nothing to you is everything to me. I am not inactive because I am invisible. I am doing my most important work in the places you cannot yet see, and the delay you resent is the very thing keeping you alive long enough to bear fruit. Now let me show you what I did with Abraham. My child, I promised Abraham descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and the sand on the seashore. And then I made him wait 25 years for a single son. 25 years of waking up next to Sarah and feeling the ache of an empty nursery. 25 years of watching his body age, his strength fade, his wife's womb become a tomb of hope locked from the inside. I did not give him Isaac when he was young and strong and could have taken credit for the miracle. I waited until his body was as good as dead, until Sarah's womb was a sealed door with the key long lost, until every human explanation had been eliminated one by one, and only then did I open the womb. Why? Because I was not just giving Abraham a son. I was giving him a faith that could not be mistaken for luck. My word declares, against all hope, Abraham in hope believed. The waiting was not empty. The waiting was the chisel I used to carve faith into his bones. And every year of silence was another precise cut that revealed the shape I had always intended. Now consider Joseph, because his story holds a key you may have missed. I gave Joseph a dream when he was 17 years old. A vision of his brothers bowing before him, of influence and honor and purpose. And then I allowed him to be thrown into a pit by those same brothers, sold into slavery like cattle, falsely accused by Potiphar's wife, and abandoned in an Egyptian prison for years that stretched into an eternity of forgotten hope. From the outside, it looked like I had lost control. It looked like the promise was dead and buried beneath layers of injustice. But the prison was not punishment. It was preparation. In that cell, Joseph learned to govern his own soul before I ever gave him a nation to govern. He learned humility when every instinct screamed for vindication. He learned patience when every day felt wasted. He learned to serve faithfully in obscurity before I ever placed him before Pharaoh. Had I lifted him from the pit directly to the palace, he would have been crushed by the weight of a crown he had never been shaped to wear. My word declares, you intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. The pit, the slave block, the prison cell, none of it was empty. Every link in the chain was a rung on the ladder I was building. The waiting was not a detour, it was the curriculum, and the prison was my classroom in disguise. Now let me speak directly to what you are feeling today. My child, imagine roots during a drought. The tree above ground looks the same. Same branches, same leaves, same quiet silhouette against the sky. But underground, something urgent is happening. The roots are not resting. They are pressing deeper than they have ever gone before, stretching through dry, cracking soil, searching for water that surface roots cannot reach. The drought does not kill the tree. The drought drives the roots to depths they would never have explored in comfortable seasons. And those deep roots become the only thing standing between the tree and collapse when the real storm comes. My word declares, he who did not spare his own son, but gave him up for us all, how will he not also graciously give us all things? If I have already given you my son, the most costly gift in the universe, the treasure of heaven itself, then you can trust me with the smaller gifts that seem delayed today. The cross is your receipt. The empty tomb is your guarantee. I have already proven my love in the most expensive way possible. You do not need to doubt it when the answer tarries. The drought is not forgetting. The drought is deepening. And the roots you are growing right now will anchor you when everything else is shaking. Now hear this, because it may be the most important truth I give you today. My child, have you ever seen a diamond before it reaches the jewelry store? It begins as carbon buried miles beneath the Earth's surface, subjected to heat so intense it would vaporize anything weaker, and pressure so crushing it would pulverize ordinary stone. There is no shortcut from carbon to diamond. There is no microwave recipe, no express lane, no fast-track program. The only way carbon becomes a diamond is by staying in the crushing place long enough for the transformation to be complete. Take it out too soon and you have nothing but a lump of black dust. Leave it in the fire and the pressure long enough, and you have something so brilliant that kings will trade their crowns to possess it. My word says, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. Where the crushing is not cruelty, the pressure is not punishment, the heat is not abandonment. I am not destroying you. I am making a diamond, and diamonds are not manufactured in comfort. They are forged in the deep places where the weight of the world presses down, and I know exactly how much heat you can bear and exactly how long you need to stay in it to emerge as something priceless. So now here is my blessing over you, my child. The one who has waited faithfully while others seem to sprint ahead. The one who has held on to a promise so long your fingers have gone numb. The one who has wondered if the delay means I have changed my mind about you. May you finally see the waiting not as a locked door, but as a sacred classroom where I am shaping you into someone who can carry the weight of the gift I am preparing. May the roots you are growing in the dark anchor you for every storm that lies ahead. May the fire you fear become the forge where I transform carbon into diamond. And may the day come when you look back from the other side of the promise and realize that the waiting was not the price you paid. It was the gift I was giving all along. And the person you became in the silence is worth more than anything you were asking for in the noise. Now I want you to do something. Go to the comments below and write these 6 words. Lord, I trust your timing. Write it not as a performance, but as a declaration. Write it even if your voice shakes. Write it especially if you do not fully believe it yet, because faith spoken in the dark is the kind of faith that splits seas and topples walls and raises dead things back to life. I am reading every word, and I am still working even now in the places you cannot yet see. I am right here, closer than the ache in your waiting heart, and I have never once been late. My beloved child, do you know what I am really doing when a door slams shut in front of you? Have you ever realized the closed door is not rejection, but redirection, not punishment, but rescue? My word says, forgetting what lies behind and straining toward what lies ahead, I press on toward the goal. I have seen you standing there, forehead pressed against the wood, tears pooling on the floor, whispering, why? into the silence like a child calling into an empty room with no one answering back. And today I am going to tell you the truth. That closed door may be the very thing that would have destroyed you had I let you walk through it. My beloved child, imagine a ship caught in a violent storm at sea. The waves are climbing higher than the mast. The wind is screaming through the rigging, and the crew is terrified. Then the captain does something that seems insane. He seals the hatch below deck. He locks the door. To the passengers, this looks like a death sentence. They are trapped. They pound on the hatch and scream to be let out. What they cannot see is that the door leads to a compartment already breached, a section flooding with black, freezing water. Had the captain left that door open, the entire vessel would have gone down in minutes, every soul lost to the deep. The closed door was not a cage. It was the only thing standing between them and the grave. I never close a door to imprison you. I close doors to contain floods you never saw coming, to seal off compartments where destruction has already begun to leak through the hull. And the very thing you are pounding on in frustration is the barrier I place between you and a disaster you were never meant to experience. My child, I am not asking you to pretend the loss did not happen. I wept at Lazarus's tomb, and he was only 4 days dead, and I knew I was about to raise him from the grave. I still wept. If I wept knowing resurrection was minutes away, do you think I am offended when you weep over a loss you cannot yet see redeemed? Your tears are not a failure of trust. Your grief is not a shortage of faith. The Psalms are soaked in the raw, unfiltered cries of my people. Every fear, every doubt, every question hurled toward heaven with no polite filter. David screamed, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And I did not strike him down. I wrote his words into scripture. I canonized his desperation. So bring me your grief, not the cleaned up version you think I want to hear, but the real thing, messy and unedited. I have never once turned away a heart that came to me honestly. My word declares, the Lord's loving kindnesses indeed never cease, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning, every single morning, including the one after the door closed, including the one when you woke up and remembered what you lost before your feet touched the floor. My child, think of a toddler reaching for a shiny knife on the kitchen counter. The blade glints in the light, beautiful and fascinating, and the child's fingers stretch toward it with complete innocent desire. The parent sees what the child cannot. Severed tendons, permanent damage, a wound that would alter the child's life forever. So the parent snatches the knife away. The child screams. The child does not understand. The child cries as if the parent has committed the deepest betrayal, because from the child's perspective, something good was just stolen by someone who claimed to love them. My word says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. I am not asking you to understand the closed door. I am asking you to trust the hand that closed it. You are the toddler reaching for a blade wrapped in beautiful packaging, and I am the father who loves you enough to let you scream at me, rather than let you bleed to death holding something that was never safe for you to touch. One day you will see the scar you avoided, and you will thank me for the door you once resented. Now let me tell you about Paul, because his story holds a key you may have overlooked. My child, Paul planned to preach in Asia. He had a strategy, a timeline, a God-given vision. It was a good plan, a holy plan that made perfect strategic sense. And I said no. I closed that door so hard, the text says, I kept them from preaching the word in the province of Asia. Paul must have been bewildered. Why would I shut down a plan so obviously aligned with my purposes? But that closed door redirected him to Macedonia, and from that redirection came the church at Philippi, the most generous, most loving, most faithful congregation Paul ever planted. Now imagine a fisherman who has hooked the catch of a lifetime, the kind of fish that would feed his family for a month. He fights it for an hour, muscles burning, hands bleeding on the line, and then I tell him to cut the line, cut it, let it go. The fisherman thinks I have lost my mind. This is the provision he prayed for. Why would I give him the fish only to tell him to release it? Because I can see what he cannot. The fish is too large for his boat. If he hauls it aboard, the weight will capsize him before he reaches the shore. The blessing he is fighting to keep would be the very thing that drowns him. My word declares, as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. The door to Asia closed so the door to Europe could open. The line was cut so a bigger boat could be built. What you are calling rejection is repositioning, and the second address will make you forget the first one ever mattered. So now here is my blessing over you, my child, the one standing before a door that has just slammed shut, the one whose knuckles are bruised from knocking, the one whose voice is hoarse from asking why. May you finally see the closed door not as rejection, but as the hand of a father who sees the fire on the other side and refuses to let you walk into it. May the tears you cry today become the water that softens the soil of a future you cannot yet imagine. May the trust you choose in the dark, when every feeling screams that I have abandoned you, become the foundation of a faith that nothing can shake. And may the day come when you look back from the open door I am preparing right now and realize that the chapter you begged me not to close had become too small to contain the story I was always writing for you. The ending you mourn today will one day become the beginning you celebrate forever. I waste nothing, not your joys, not your tears, not even the chapters you wish had lasted longer. Now I want you to do something. Go to the comments below and write these 7 words. Lord, I trust the doors you close. Write them not because you feel them yet. Write them because speaking faith in the darkness is the most powerful act of trust a child can offer a father. Your words may be the exact encouragement another believer needs today. Someone standing before their own closed door, wondering if I have abandoned them too. I have not abandoned you. I have not abandoned them, and I never will. I am right here, closer than the door that just closed, and the one I am opening next will take your breath away. My beloved child, do you know why I have not yet given you what you have been asking for? Have you ever realized that the delay is not denial but preparation? Not a locked vault, but a heart being stretched wide enough to hold the blessing without shattering under its weight? My word says, now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us. You have been praying for a bigger stage, a wider door, a larger life. And all the while, I have been working on something far more critical than the size of your platform. I have been expanding the size of your heart. You want the mountain moved, but I am strengthening the arms that will climb it. You want the ocean parted, but I am deepening the faith that will walk through it. And today I'm going to tell you the truth about what I am doing in the hidden places of your character. Because the promotion you are begging for would crush you if you received it before the preparation was complete. My child, think of a wineskin. In the ancient world, if you poured new, fermenting wine into an old brittle skin, the pressure would stretch it past its breaking point. The skin would split, the wine would spill across the ground, and both container and contents would be ruined beyond recovery. But a new wineskin, soft, pliable, stretched daily by the maker's hands, could hold the fermenting wine and expand with it, growing day by day as the pressure built from within. My word says, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. I am not withholding the wine from you. I am softening the wineskin. I am making you pliable in my hands, stretching you in the places that years of routine have made rigid, so that when the new wine comes, and it is coming, you will not split under the pressure of the blessing. The stretching hurts. I know it does. Every fiber screams in protest, but a torn wineskin cannot be repaired once it ruptures. And I would rather you feel the ache of expansion now than watch everything I have poured into you spill across the floor because the container was not ready to hold it. Now let me tell you about David, because his story holds a key you may have missed. My child, I anointed David as king when he was still a shepherd boy, still smelling of sheep and cedar, still the youngest son nobody bothered to call in from the fields when the prophet came to dinner. I poured the oil on his head in front of his brothers and declared him the next ruler of Israel. And then I sent him back to the sheep. Not to the palace, not to the throne, not to the feasts and the favor of the court. Back to the pasture, where he fought lions and bears with nothing but a sling and a crooked staff, where he composed psalms to the rhythm of grazing flocks, where he learned to lead creatures who could not speak and gave him no applause. What looked like forgotten years were actually foundational years. The boy who could protect sheep from a lion became the man who could face Goliath when every soldier in Israel trembled behind their shields. The boy who learned to lead stubborn, wandering animals became the king who would lead a stubborn, wandering nation. The field was not punishment. The field was training. The pasture was my classroom, and the sheep were my curriculum. Had I placed a crown on David's head the day I anointed him, it would have toppled before the first battle. The shepherd had to become a warrior before the warrior could become a king. And the warrior had to learn humility in caves and deserts before he could sit on a throne without being destroyed by it. I am not delaying your promise. I am building the person who can carry it. My child, my word says, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters. There is meaning buried in the mundane that most people never find because they are too busy looking past it towards something they consider more important. Every sink you wash dishes in, every spreadsheet you fill out, every floor you sweep, every meeting you attend, these are not obstacles between you and your calling. These are the very training ground where I am shaping your character for the weight that is coming. A man who cannot be faithful in a cubicle will not suddenly become faithful in a cathedral. A woman who cannot serve joyfully when no one thanks her will not suddenly serve with humility when thousands are watching. The ordinary is not the waiting room for the extraordinary. The ordinary is the forge where the extraordinary is made. Do not despise the small things. I have hidden diamonds in the dirt of your daily routine, and you will only find them if you stop looking past this moment toward the next one. Now hear this, because comparison is one of the most dangerous traps I need to warn you about. My child, when Peter turned to me and pointed at John, asking, "What about him?" demanding to know why John's path looked different from the one I had just shown Peter. I did not explain my plan. I did not justify my decision or defend my wisdom. I simply looked at him and said, "You follow me." Two men, both loved deeply, both called mightily, both used for eternal purposes, and yet their stories could not have been more different. Peter was crucified upside down on a Roman cross. John lived into deep old age and died in exile on the island of Patmos. The same Savior, the same calling, the same Spirit poured out at Pentecost, in two completely different destinations. If I had given Peter a preview of his cross while showing him John's long life, Peter might have turned away in fear before the journey began. If I had shown John his lonely exile while Peter marched in the fire of revival, John might have drowned in envy before he ever wrote the Revelation. I hide the endings from both of you because comparison steals the strength you need for your own road. Your path is yours alone, designed with a precision you cannot fathom. Stop looking sideways. Stop measuring your chapter against the chapter I am writing for someone else. I do not write the same book twice, and the page your neighbor is living may be their mountaintop while yours is the valley. But I am with you in that valley every bit as surely as I am with them on the peak. So now here is my blessing over you. The one who has been faithful in obscurity, the one who has served without recognition, the one who has wondered why others seem to rise while you remain hidden. May you finally see that the season of small things is not a punishment, but a profound, sacred preparation, and that every invisible act of faithfulness is a brick I am laying in a foundation that will carry more weight than your mind can currently conceive. May the stretching you feel today become the capacity you need tomorrow. May the ordinary moments you are tempted to despise become the holy ground where I shape you into the image of my Son. My word declares, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Notice there is no fruit called visibility, no fruit called followers, no fruit called recognition. The things the world measures are not the things I measure, and the fruit I am cultivating in the dark soil of your heart right now will outlast every stage, every title, and every earthly achievement you will ever hold. What I am doing in you is worth more than anything I could ever do through you, because the vessel must be prepared before the treasure can be safely poured inside without destroying it. Now I want you to do something. Go to the comments below and write this prayer. Father, I trust the work you are doing in me, even when I cannot see it. Expand my heart before you expand my life. I surrender my timeline to your wisdom. Write it not as a formula, but as a genuine offering. Write it because surrender spoken in the darkness is the first step toward the freedom you have been seeking. I am reading every word. I am right here, closer than the quiet work I am doing in the depths of your heart. And I will finish what I have started, because I have never left a single soul half-formed. My beloved child, have you ever realized why you still flinch when someone calls your name? Why the mirror still reflects a face you have been trying to outrun for years? Why old labels still cling to your skin like garments you never chose but cannot seem to remove? Why certain memories still knock at the door of your heart long after you thought you had locked them out for good is not evidence that your past still owns you, but the most unexpected proof that the enemy is fighting hardest over territory he knows he has already lost. Not because the transformation was incomplete, as though the cross was sufficient for your forgiveness, but powerless to reshape your identity. Not because you are still the person those old accusations describe, as though grace was never strong enough to reach the deepest wounds, but because a prisoner whose sentence has been overturned by the highest court still startles at the sound of a slamming door. And the flinch is not evidence that the prison still holds him. It is evidence that the body remembers what the soul has already been freed from. Tear-stained pages of a journal you promised yourself you would never open again. Name tags written in someone else's handwriting that you have worn so long you have forgotten they were never yours to begin with. A photograph you still turn face down when company comes over. And today I'm going to tell you the truth about who you actually are. and it is nothing close to the labels you have been carrying all these years. That is why the Apostle John wrote these life-changing words in 1 John 3:1. See what kind of love the Father has given to us, that we should be called children of God, and so we are. My child, let those final 3 words settle into the deepest place of your heart tonight. And so we are. Not in so we might someday become, if we perform well enough, if we finally conquer every lingering struggle, if we manage to outrun the shadow of who we used to be. John does not say you are working toward becoming, my child. He says you already are. The verdict has been spoken. The adoption papers have been signed, not in ink that fades, but in blood that cannot be revoked. This identity is not a reward you earn by flawless living. It is a gift you receive through faith in Christ. And everything else in your life flows from that single, unshakable foundation. The shattered mirror hanging on the wall of your memory, the one that still shows you a distorted reflection of who you used to be, is not telling you the truth about who you are today. A cracked mirror does not reveal a cracked person. It reveals a mirror in need of replacement, and I have already replaced the old reflection with a new one, hidden in Christ, sealed by grace, and unreachable by any accusation the enemy still hurls from a distance he can never again cross. Long before anyone misunderstood you, I knew you. Long before anyone placed unfair labels upon you, I saw you. Not the edited version you present to the world. Not the polished image you create for public consumption, but the real you, the one you hide in the quiet hours when no one else is watching. And Psalm 139, 13-14, declares what has been true since the first moment of your existence. For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. My beloved child, did you catch the image my servant David chose under the inspiration of my spirit? Knitted together, not mass-produced on an assembly line where every product is identical. Not stamped from a mold where flaws mean rejection. Knitted, slowly, intentionally, stitch by stitch, with a design already in mind before the first thread was ever pulled. A tapestry does not understand the pattern while it is still on the loom. The threads see only chaos, colors overlapping, knots forming, loose ends dangling in every direction. But the weaver has never once looked down at the work and wondered whether the design was worth continuing. The threads were chosen before the first stitch was made, and every thread, even the dark ones, even the ones you wish I had never included, is being woven into something whose beauty you will only fully grasp when you finally see it from the other side of eternity. My beloved child, think about a little boy learning to walk beside his father. He does not pause every few steps to ask whether he still belongs to the family. The question never crosses his mind, not because he is confident in his own ability, but because belonging was never about his performance in the first place. He may stumble. He may fall hard enough to scrape his knees and soak his father's shoulder with tears. He may even need to be carried for long stretches when his legs give out and the path grows steep. But none of those moments, not the falls, not the tears, not the weakness, ever change whose child he is. The relationship was established long before the walking lesson began. In the same way, I am not surprised by your weakness. I already knew every chapter of your story before I called you to myself. Nothing has caught me off guard. Nothing has diminished my faithfulness. And nothing you do, no stumble, no fall, no season of being carried, can undo the irreversible reality that you are mine. Matthew 11:28-30 carries an invitation I want you to hear as though I am speaking it directly into your ear tonight. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. My beloved child, notice the tenderness in that single word. Come, not come when you have finally become strong enough to deserve my presence. Not come after you have sorted out every tangled mess and presented yourself with polished dignity. Just come. The weary are welcomed, not tolerated with reluctance, but welcomed with open arms. The burdened are invited, not as an afterthought, but as honored guests for whom the table has already been set. The tired are not turned away at the door, because the door was open from the inside long before you ever found the courage to knock. How often you have imagined that I am standing at a distance, waiting for you to improve before you are permitted to draw near. Yet the gospel teaches the opposite. You draw near because I have already drawn near to you in Christ. And as you remain close to me, I continue the transforming work I began. Not through pressure, not through shame, not through the exhausting treadmill of religious performance, but through the quiet, organic process of a branch simply remaining connected to the vine. Branches do not produce fruit through anxiety. They do not strain and strive and lie awake at night, wondering whether they are fruitful enough. They simply stay connected. And the life that flows through the vine produces fruit in its proper season. Stop measuring your life only by visible accomplishments. Measure it by your closeness to me. The fruit will come, not by your striving, but by my faithful supply. My beloved child, here is the quiet revelation I want you to carry into the silence tonight. You have spent years believing I was asking you to become someone entirely different so that I could finally love you. But all along, my love has been patiently freeing you to become the person I created you to be. The one hidden beneath the masks you collected. The one buried under name tags written by voices that were never authorized to name you. My grace has never been chasing perfection. It has been shaping transformation. Little by little, day by day, one faithful step after another. The flinch when someone calls your name is not evidence that you are still the person you used to be. It is the echo of a prison you have already left. And echoes only prove the canyon is behind you, not that you still live inside it. So I bless you now, my beloved child. I bless you with the courage to stop looking into shattered mirrors for a true reflection, and to start believing what I have spoken over you since before the foundations of the world. I bless you with the quiet confidence that your identity flows from being called my child, not earned by performance, not revoked by failure, but secured by the finished work of the cross and sealed by a love that has never once wavered. I bless you with the freedom to stop wearing name tags written by hands that were never authorized to name you, and to answer only to the name I have given you, the one written in the Lamb's Book of Life before you ever took your first breath. When you look into the mirror tomorrow morning, do not begin with yesterday's mistakes. Begin with today's promise. You belong to me through my Son, and that truth is stronger than every accusation, stronger than every fear, stronger than every label this world has ever tried to place upon you. The same hands that shaped the mountains shaped you with no less intention, no less attention, no less love, because you have never been an afterthought in my heart, and you never will be. My beloved child, have you ever realized why the confidence you built with your own hands, the achievements stacked like a house of cards, the trophies polished until your fingers ached, the reputation guarded like a fortress against every whisper of doubt, always collapsed the moment the wind changed direction, and why its collapse left you not merely disappointed but hollow, as though the floor itself had given way beneath your feet, is not evidence that you were never strong enough, but the most unexpected proof that confidence was never designed to be built upon yourself in the first place? Not because your efforts were meaningless, as though every achievement and every sacrifice and every late night you poured into becoming someone worthy of respect counted for nothing in my sight. Not because you were foolish to try, as though desiring to stand firm was a mistake, but because a house built on sand does not collapse due to poor construction. It collapses because the foundation itself cannot hold, and no amount of architectural skill can change the shifting nature of what it stands upon. Trophies gathering dust on a shelf you no longer look at. Applause that faded before the echo even finished ringing in your ears. The hollow ache of standing in a room full of accomplishments that suddenly felt like borrowed furniture in someone else's house. And today I am going to tell you the truth about the only confidence that cannot be shaken. Not built by striving, but received by trusting. And why it has been available to you all along. That is why Psalm 125:1 declares, "Those who trust in the Lord are like Mount Zion, which cannot be moved but abides forever." My child, let those two final words anchor themselves into the deepest place of your heart tonight. Abides forever. Not survives most storms if the winds are not too strong. Not endures for a season until the next crisis arrives. My word does not compare those who trust in me to a well-built house, sturdy but still vulnerable to flood and fire, and the slow erosion of time. It compares them to Mount Zion itself, a mountain, fixed, unmovable, abiding through every storm, every earthquake, every passing century. A mountain does not wake each morning and nervously check whether it is still standing. It does not lie awake at night wondering whether tomorrow's weather will finally be the one that topples it. The mountain's stability has nothing to do with its own effort, and everything to do with the one who anchored it into the earth before the first sunrise ever broke across the horizon. The same hands that pressed Mount Zion into the bedrock of creation have anchored your soul into Christ, and no storm has ever been strong enough to undo what those hands have secured. A ship in a hurricane is not saved by the captain's confidence. It is saved by the anchor that reaches through the chaos above and grips what cannot be moved beneath. My beloved child, consider a tree that has stood for generations. Storms have come, not gentle rains that barely rustle the leaves, but howling gales that snapped lesser trunks like dry twigs. Winds have blown with fury that would terrify any living thing. Seasons have changed, some barren, some abundant, some so frozen that growth seemed impossible. Yet the tree remains, not because it avoided the storms, but because its roots reach depths that no surface level disturbance can touch. That is exactly what Paul describes in Colossians 2:6-7. Therefore, as you received Christ Jesus the Lord, so walk in him, rooted and built up in him and established in the faith. Rooted, not casually planted, not resting on the surface with roots so shallow the first strong wind could tip the whole thing sideways, but driven deep into soil that never shifts, drawing nourishment from springs that never run dry. Built up, not constructed in haste with materials that crumble under pressure, but erected stone by stone, season by season, with the kind of deliberate pacing that produces structures meant to outlast centuries. Established, not wavering, not uncertain, not hoping things will work out if the circumstances happen to cooperate. Settled, anchored, unshakable. And perhaps you have been measuring your spiritual life by what is visible above the surface. The fruit, the growth, the evidence everyone else can see. While I have been far more interested in what is happening beneath the soil, where no human eye can follow and no human applause can reach. My child, I want to speak to you plainly about something that has been quietly stealing from you for years. And you may not have even recognized the thief because he wore such familiar clothing. Comparison is a quiet thief. It steals gratitude because you cannot simultaneously count your own blessings while measuring them against someone else's. It steals peace because the mind that constantly scans the horizon for who is ahead can never rest in the present moment. It steals the ability to see what I am already doing in your own heart, because eyes fixed on another's field cannot perceive the seeds already breaking through the soil beneath your own feet. When you compare your behind-the-scenes reality to someone else's highlight reel, you are comparing the messy, unfinished, unedited version of your story to the carefully curated final cut of theirs. That is not a fair comparison. It is a distortion dressed as evaluation. A measuring tape in the hands of the enemy will always be held at an angle designed to make you feel shorter than you actually are. The only mirror that tells you the truth about who you are becoming is the one held by the Spirit. And that mirror reflects Christ, not the carefully filtered image your neighbor presents to the world. My beloved child, remember the Father who brought his suffering child to my son in the Gospel of Mark. His faith was not polished. His theology was not flawless. He did not arrive with a confident declaration of perfect trust and unwavering certainty. He cried out, and the words still echo through Scripture with a rawness that should comfort every heart that has ever wrestled with doubt. I believe, help my unbelief. That honest, trembling, desperate confession moved my son. Not because it was impressive, but because it was true. I have never required you to have perfect faith. I have never demanded that your confidence stand without wavering, that your heart never question, that your hands never shake when they reach toward me. A father holding his child's hand through a dark forest does not scold the child for trembling. He simply tightens his grip and continues walking. Your faith may feel small tonight. Your confidence may feel fragile. But faith the size of a mustard seed, faith that is barely visible, faith that can hardly be measured, can still move mountains when that faith is placed in a God who has never once failed to keep his promises. The roots often grow deepest during seasons that feel the most ordinary. A tree does not announce that its roots are stretching deeper into the soil. It simply continues drawing nourishment, quietly, faithfully, patiently. And when the storm eventually arrives, the tree that seemed ordinary proves to be unmovable. So let me give you the words. My son spoke in John 15:5, words that have been true of you since the day you first believed. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. My beloved child, notice where the fruit comes from. Not from the branch straining and striving and exhausting itself in the effort to produce something worthy. Not from the branch comparing itself to other branches and wondering why it does not look as fruitful. The branch simply remains connected to the vine, and the fruit appears because the life of the vine is flowing through it. Abiding is not another task to add to an already overwhelming list. It is the quiet, daily returning of your heart to the one who has never once turned away from you. It is the whispered prayer in the middle of the night. It is the scripture that lingers in your mind long after you have closed the page. It is the moment you pause before reacting, not because you have suddenly become perfect, but because my Spirit is gently reshaping your instincts from the inside out. You have been asking me to make you stronger. I have been answering that prayer by making you more dependent, not weaker, but more deeply rooted in the only strength that has never failed. Here is the quiet revelation I want you to carry into the silence tonight. The perspective shift that redefines everything you thought you knew about confidence. Confidence that is built upon yourself always collapses, like a house of cards trembling at the first breath of wind, scattering across a floor you spent years trying to polish. But confidence that is built upon me stands like a mountain, unmovable, unshakable, abiding through every season because it is anchored not in your faithfulness, but in mine. Not in your ability to hold on, but in my promise to never let go. Not in the strength of your grip, but in the unbreakable grip of grace. The same God who anchored the mountains into the earth has anchored your soul into Christ. And no storm has ever been powerful enough to move what those hands have already secured. So I bless you now, my beloved child. I bless you with the quiet confidence that does not rise and fall with the opinions of others. The settled assurance that your worth was decided at the cross long before anyone ever had a chance to question it. I bless you with roots that reach deep into the soil of my faithfulness. Roots that draw nourishment from springs that never run dry. Roots that hold firm when the surface level storms rage and the winds howl and everything visible seems to tremble. I bless you with freedom from the quiet thief of comparison. The grace to run your own race with your eyes fixed not on the runners beside you, but on the finish line where Christ himself waits with arms outstretched. When tomorrow morning arrives and the world begins its familiar chorus of demands and doubts and whispered accusations, remember this single truth. You are not standing because you are strong enough. You are standing because the one who holds you has never once stumbled, and my grip has never been broken by a storm. My beloved child, do you know what I was really doing in the years when you heard nothing but silence? Have you ever realized that the waiting was not abandonment, but cultivation? Not punishment, but the most intentional, loving preparation you have ever received? My word declares, but they who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. I have watched you kneeling beside your bed in the dark hours of the night, hands pressed together until your knuckles turned white, tears soaking into the carpet, whispering the same prayer for the 10th year in a row. And I have not been ignoring you. I have not been absent. I have not been distracted by the traffic of a billion other prayers rising from a billion other voices across the earth. I have been right there, closer than your next breath. And the silence you have mistaken for rejection has been the sound of my hands shaping something you cannot yet see. And today I am going to tell you the truth about every single moment of waiting, because the years you thought I wasted were the years I was building the foundation that would hold everything I'm about to pour into your life. My child, imagine a gardener tending a vineyard in the cold, gray months of winter. The vines are bare, stripped of leaves, stripped of fruit, stripped of every visible sign of life. A passerby would see nothing but dead branches twisting against a pale sky, a scene of complete desolation with nothing to show for the labor already invested. But the gardener knows what the passerby does not. Beneath the frozen soil, the roots are drinking deep. The sap is still moving through the wood, slow and patient and deliberate. And the pruning that looked so violent in autumn was the very act that made next year's harvest possible. My word says, the Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. I am the gardener, and your barren season is not death. It is winter, and winter is not the absence of growth. Winter is the season when growth moves underground, where no one can applaud it, where no one can measure it, where the only thing happening is the deep, silent, essential work of roots pressing further into soil that will feed the fruit that is coming. I prune what I love. I do not prune what I intend to throw away. The cutting is not cruelty. The cutting is the only way the next harvest can possibly be more abundant than the last. Now let me take you to Egypt, because Joseph's story holds a truth you desperately need to hear. My child, I gave Joseph a dream when he was 17 years old. A vision of influence, of purpose, of his own brothers bowing before him under the weight of destiny. And then I allowed him to be thrown into a pit, sold into slavery by those same brothers, falsely accused by Potiphar's wife, and abandoned in an Egyptian prison for 13 years. 13 years. From the outside, those years looked like a dream dying in slow motion. Every door slamming shut, every hope extinguished one by one, every reason to trust the promise crumbling into dust. But I was in that pit with Joseph. I was in that slave caravan, walking beside him through the desert heat. I was in that prison cell when he woke up every morning wondering if I had forgotten his name. And what was I doing? I was building the man who could govern Egypt. The 17-year-old dreamer was too arrogant, too immature, too unshaped by suffering to carry the weight of a nation on his shoulders. Had I given him the palace the day I gave him the dream, the crown would have crushed him before the first famine arrived. The prison was not punishment. The prison was my university, and every year of waiting was another course in the curriculum that would one day save millions of lives. My child, do you know why I kept David in the fields with the sheep for all those years after Samuel anointed him as king? David was carrying the oil of kingship on his forehead, while his hands were still calloused from a shepherd's staff, still smelling of wool and cedar in the open sky. I anointed him, and then I sent him back to the pasture. Back to the lions and the bears and the endless, monotonous rhythm of grazing flocks that gave him no standing ovation, no recognition, no platform. What looked like forgotten years were foundational years. The boy who learned to protect sheep from predators became the man who could face Goliath when every soldier in Israel was trembling behind their shields. The boy who composed psalms to the rhythm of wandering flocks became the king who would lead a wandering nation with a heart that beat in rhythm with mine. I could have placed the crown on David's head the day Samuel poured the oil. Instead, I placed him in a field for years. Because the shepherd had to become a warrior before the warrior could become a king. And the warrior had to learn humility in caves and deserts before he could sit on a throne without being destroyed by it. The waiting was not a detour from the promise. The waiting was the only path to the promise that would not destroy him when he arrived. Now consider the 30 years I spent in Nazareth, and let this sink into the deepest part of your soul. My child, I, the word through whom the universe was spoken into existence, spent 30 years in obscurity before my public ministry began. 30 years of sawdust and calloused hands, of building tables and chairs for neighbors who had no idea they were purchasing furniture from the hands that hung the stars. 3 decades of silence while the world stumbled on in darkness, waiting for a savior who was already walking among them, already breathing their air, already drinking their water, and saying nothing. I was not wasting those years. I was sanctifying the ordinary. I was declaring with every plank of wood and every quiet sunrise in that forgotten Galilean village that hidden years are not wasted years, that the preparation is not the price you pay for the promise, but part of the promise itself. If I, who needed no preparation, chose to wait 30 years before stepping into public ministry, how can you believe your own waiting is meaningless? I have sanctified your hidden years. I have made holy ground out of your ordinary days, and the seeds I am planting in the silence will outlast every applause, every title, and every platform you will ever stand on. My word declares, we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope, and hope does not put us to shame. Do you see the chain I am building? Suffering to endurance, to character, to hope. Not one step skipped, not one shortcut offered. Character cannot be downloaded in a moment of revelation. It cannot be installed by a single sermon or a single encounter at an altar. Character is forged, degree by degree, in the fire of days that feel purposeless and nights that feel endless. Every tear you have cried in the dark has been a degree of heat shaping something inside you that no visible blessing could ever produce. The hope I am building in you is not the flimsy optimism that evaporates when circumstances turn hostile. It is the hope of a soul that has been through the fire and discovered on the other side that the refiner never left the crucible, not for a single solitary second. So now here is my blessing over you, my child. The one who has waited until hope itself felt like a language you no longer speak. The one who has watched others receive what you are still begging for. The one who has whispered, "How much longer?" into the silence of 1,000 nights. May you finally see that the waiting was never empty, never wasted, never a sign of my absence. May the roots you have grown in the dark become the anchor that holds you steady when the storms finally arrive. May every prison season you have endured be transformed into the wisdom that will govern kingdoms you cannot yet see. And may the day come, and I promise you with every fiber of my eternal being that it will come, when you look back from the other side of the promise and realize that the waiting was not the price you paid for the blessing. The waiting was the blessing. The person you became in the silence is worth more than anything you were asking for in the noise. And the foundation I have built in your hidden years will hold more weight than your current imagination can possibly conceive. Now I want you to do something. Go to the comments below and write this prayer. Father, I trust the preparation even when I cannot see the purpose. Shape me into the person who can carry the promise. Whatever it takes, however long it takes. Write it not as a performance for others to read, but as a genuine surrender whispered directly to the only one who has ever truly known the depths of your heart. I am reading every word. I am right here, closer than the silence you have mistaken for absence. And I have never once taken my eyes off the masterpiece I am shaping in the hidden places of your soul. My beloved child, have you ever realized why the doors you have been pounding on with bleeding knuckles? The promotion that would finally validate years of being overlooked. The relationship that would silence the ache of loneliness. The breakthrough that would prove to everyone who doubted you that you were never as small as they believed, have remained stubbornly, impossibly closed, not because I have been deaf to your knocking, but because I have been strengthening the shoulders that would need to carry what lies on the other side. And you have been so fixated on the hinges that refuse to move that you never noticed the weight I was quietly, deliberately adding to your frame in the waiting room you have mistaken for a prison. Not because your prayers lacked the right words, as though the throne room of heaven operated on a currency of flawless rhetoric, and I were a reluctant king who could be persuaded only by perfectly crafted arguments. Not because you have not earned the open door, as though my love were a wage calculated by human performance rather than an inheritance sealed by the blood of my son, but because a bridge that will carry the weight of an army cannot rest on pylons driven ankle deep into untested soil, and the foundation I have been building beneath the surface of your life is the only thing that will keep you standing when the weight of glory finally arrives and the world watches to see whether you will buckle beneath it. The journals you have filled with the same request, page after page, year after year, the dates blurring, the handwriting shifting as seasons passed, the faith flickering and returning like a candle in wind, are not a record of my refusal. They are a chronicle of the most profound preparation any soul can undergo. The slow, invisible forging of a vessel that can hold what I am about to pour into it without shattering from the sheer weight of the blessing. And today I am going to tell you the truth about what I have been doing in the silent years. The years you have called wasted, the years you have named abandonment, and why the closed door was never rejection, but the most deliberate, loving protection I have ever extended over your life. My servant James understood this mystery when he wrote in James 1:2-4. Count it all joy, my brothers, When you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. My child, pause and let those words settle into the marrow of your spirit. Joy in the trial itself, not merely in the distant hope of its ending. Steadfastness, not as a burden to be endured with gritted teeth, but as the very mechanism through which I am making you complete, a vessel lacking nothing essential for the purpose I designed you to carry before the foundation of the world. Imagine a swordsmith standing before his forge, the fire roaring at a temperature that would consume anything less resilient than the steel he has chosen with deliberate care. He does not apologize for the heat. He does not flinch when the blade glows white-hot beneath the flame. He grips the metal with steady hands and brings down the hammer. Once, twice, a rhythm older than any calendar. And every strike that looks to the untrained eye like destruction is actually the removal of every impurity, every structural weakness, every invisible flaw that would cause the blade to snap in the very moment it was needed most. Then when the shaping is complete, he plunges the glowing steel into freezing water, and the violent hiss, the cloud of steam that rises like a dying breath, is not the sound of ruin. It is the sound of strength being locked into the metal at a molecular level, a transformation that can never be achieved without the shock of the cold. You have felt the hammer fall. You have gasped at the sudden plunge into water that stole your breath and made you certain you would not survive the quenching. But I have been forging a blade in you that will not break. And the very trials you have begged me to remove were the only instruments sharp enough to cut away everything that would have failed you in the battle ahead. My beloved child, the wisest king who ever drew breath, my servant Solomon, penned words in Proverbs 3:5-6 that have lost none of their power in the centuries since his quill first touched parchment. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. Do you see what I am asking of you? Not that you would understand the path. I explicitly command you to release your grip on your own understanding as though it were a reliable compass. Not that you would map out the journey in advance and approve every turn before you take a single step, but that you would trust, not the visibility of the road, not the predictability of the terrain, not the absence of danger, but trust in me, the one who carved the path before you drew your first breath. A lighthouse is not built in a single afternoon. Its foundation must be driven down to bedrock, sometimes through water, sometimes through stone that resists every attempt to penetrate it. And the years of construction happen in obscurity, far from the shoreline, before a single beam of light ever sweeps across the waves. The sailors who will one day navigate safely through storms that would have dashed their ships against the rocks will never know the name of the builder who spent years in the dark, cold water laying stones no one would ever see. They will only see the light, and they will call it salvation, never realizing that the years of unseen labor were the price of every life that light would one day save. You are that lighthouse still under construction, still in the season when the visible structure has not yet risen above the waterline. And the people who will one day find their way home because of your light do not need you to rush the building. They need you to let me finish what I have started. My child, here is a revelation that will reframe every closed door you have ever wept before. When a potter sits at his wheel with a lump of clay that has collapsed, the walls that were rising beautifully one moment suddenly caving inward the next, the shape that was taking form now a formless mass again. He does not throw the clay away in frustration. He does not declare it worthless and reach for a fresh lump from a different batch. He presses it down. He centers it again. He wets his hands and begins the spinning once more. And the clay that seemed ruined beyond recovery becomes, in his patient hands, a vessel of greater beauty and strength than the first attempt could ever have produced. The collapse was never failure. It was the potter's opportunity to start again with clay that had been softened by its first encounter with the wheel. And what emerges from the second shaping carries a depth, a resilience, a capacity that the first attempt could never have achieved. Every time your plans have collapsed, every door that swung shut just as you reached for the handle, every opportunity that dissolved like mist the moment you stepped toward it, I was not punishing your failure. I was centering you again, wetting my hands, beginning the spinning once more with clay that had been made softer, more pliable, more ready to receive the shape I had always intended. A shape that would have been impossible without the collapse you mistook for rejection. My beloved child, I spoke through my servant Paul in Philippians 1:6, a promise that has never once wavered, never once been withdrawn, never once been rendered void by your weakness or the passage of time. He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. Notice the word I chose, carry, not merely initiate, as though I lit a spark and then stepped back to see whether the fire would sustain itself through the wind and rain of a fallen world. Not merely assist, as though the weight of your becoming were divided equally between your effort and mine, and the outcome hung in the balance of your ability to hold up your end. I said I would carry it, the full weight, the entire process, every season, every setback, every moment when you were certain you had exhausted my patience. An eagle does not build a nest and then abandon her young to figure out flight on their own. When the time comes, and she knows exactly when, with an instinct I myself wove into her being, she stirs the nest. She removes the soft lining. She makes the place that was comfortable suddenly, jarringly uncomfortable. And the young eagles who have never flown, who have never left the only home they have ever known, feel the sharp twigs beneath their feet and cry out in confusion. Is she abandoning them? Has she stopped loving the ones she sheltered for so long? No, she is teaching them to fly. The stirring of the nest is not rejection, but the very first flight lesson. The gift that will carry them above the mountains she has known all her life, and into skies they have only glimpsed from the safety of the only branch they have ever called home. I am stirring your nest, not because I have stopped loving you, but because you were never made to stay there forever. And the sky has been waiting for you since the day I first spoke your name. So I bless you now, my beloved child. I bless you with eyes to see the closed door not as a locked vault hiding a treasure I have decided to withhold, but as the loving boundary of a father who will not let his child walk through a gate she is not yet strong enough to carry. I bless you with the courage to stop pounding on the hinges and start pressing into the one who has been strengthening your shoulders in the very waiting room you have tried so desperately to escape. I bless you with the grace to embrace the hammer and the quenching water, not because I delight in your pain, but because the blade I am forging in you will outlast every battle and every storm and every enemy that has ever risen against the purposes I planted in your soul before time began. When the door finally swings open, and it will, for no door I have closed will remain shut one moment longer than your preparation requires. You will walk through it not as the fragile soul who first began knocking, but as a vessel forged in fire, tested in water, shaped on the potter's wheel, and carried every step of the way by the one who has never once abandoned a work he began with his own hands. And on that day you will look back at every closed door and whisper, not rejection, the most exquisite preparation I could never have designed for myself. My beloved child, do you know what I am doing in the days that feel empty? The mornings when you wake up and nothing has changed, the evenings when you go to bed and nothing has shifted, the weeks that blur into months where the only thing growing is your doubt. Have you ever realized that the quietest chapter of your life may be the one where I am doing the most monumental work? My word declares, My Father is always at his work to this very day, and I too am working. I have watched you scroll through testimonies of others while your own story feels stuck on the same page. Others receiving their breakthroughs, their healings, their open doors, while your hands remain empty and your ears ring with the sound of heaven's silence. You have mistaken stillness for abandonment. You have confused hiddenness with absence. And today I am going to tell you the truth about what I am doing in the invisible places. Because the work you cannot see is the most important work I will ever do in you. My child, imagine a construction site in the earliest days of a skyscraper. For months, the skyline does not change. Passers-by see nothing but dust, fencing, and a deep hole in the ground. A wound in the earth with no visible progress, no rising steel, no gleaming windows catching the sun. The impatient observer calls it a stalled project. The cynical neighbor calls it a failure. But the architect knows that those months beneath the surface are the most critical phase of the entire project. The foundation must be poured deep enough to anchor a structure that will one day touch the clouds. The pilings must be driven into bedrock that can withstand earthquakes the building has not yet faced. Every day of invisible work is a day that determines whether the tower will stand for a century or collapse in the first storm. My word says, "He who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep." I have not dozed off on the scaffolding of your life. I have not abandoned the construction site. I am drilling deep into the bedrock of your soul, pouring foundations that no eye can see, and the depth I am reaching right now will determine the height you will one day hold. The hole is not a grave. The hole is the beginning of a skyscraper, and the deeper the dig, the taller the tower. Now let me speak to the rhythm of silence itself, because this may be the truth you most need to hear. My child, consider a master composer writing a symphony. The audience only hears the notes, the rising crescendos, the sweeping strings, the thunder of the timpani, but the composer knows that the silence between the notes is just as intentional as the notes themselves. A symphony without rest is not music. It is noise, relentless and exhausting, a wall of sound with no shape and no breath. The rest is not a mistake. The rest is not an interruption. The rest creates anticipation. The rest gives the listener space to absorb what came before and prepare for what is coming next. My word declares, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways." You have been measuring the music of your life by the notes alone, and every rest has felt like abandonment. But I am the composer, and the silence you are living in right now is the rest I wrote into the score before the foundations of the world were laid. The next movement is coming, more glorious than anything you have heard so far, but you would not be ready for it without the silence that taught your ears to listen more deeply. My child, have you ever watched a caterpillar enter the chrysalis? From the outside, the cocoon is motionless, a dead-looking shell hanging from a branch, suspended in silence for weeks while the world moves on around it. If you cut it open too early, you would find only liquid, only dissolution, only the complete breakdown of everything the caterpillar once was. You would call it death, and you would be wrong. Because inside that chrysalis, at a cellular level far too small for the human eye to perceive, the most radical transformation in nature is taking place. The old body is being broken down into a cellular soup, and from that soup, something entirely new is being assembled. Wings, antennae, the ability to fly where the caterpillar could only crawl. My word says, "For it is God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill his good purpose." I am not working in you at a surface level that you can track with your calendar and measure with your metrics. I am working at the cellular level of your soul, rewiring your desires, restructuring your instincts, transforming your very capacity to love, to trust, to hope. The dissolution you feel right now is not death. It is metamorphosis, and the wings I am forming in the dark will carry you to places your crawling feet could never have reached. Now let me tell you about the farmer, because this metaphor has held truer for my people across every generation than almost any other. My child, a farmer plants seed in the spring and then enters the longest season of his year, the waiting. He does not dig up the seeds every morning to check on their progress. He knows that doing so would kill them. He does not pace the field at midnight, demanding that the wheat grow faster. He does not compare his field to his neighbor's and despair when the neighbor's shoots break through the soil a week earlier. He waters. He tends. He trusts the process that is taking place in soil too dark for his eyes to penetrate. And then one morning, always later than he expected, always after he had begun to wonder, the first green shoots push through the earth, and the harvest that was invisible for months suddenly becomes undeniable. My word declares, he has made everything beautiful in its time. Not in your time, not in the time you would have chosen if I had handed you the calendar and the pen. In its time, the time I designed for it, the time that accounts for every variable your finite mind cannot calculate. The seed I planted in your life has not died. It is germinating in the dark, and the shoot will break through the soil on the exact morning I appointed for it. Not a day early, not a day late. So now here is my blessing over you, my child, the one who has mistaken stillness for abandonment, the one who has measured progress by what is visible and concluded that I have stopped working, the one who has compared your invisible preparation to someone else's visible harvest and felt the sting of being forgotten. May you finally see that what looks like nothing from the surface is everything beneath it. Foundations being poured, wings being formed, seeds splitting open in soil too dark for human eyes. May you learn to hear my voice not only in the crescendo, but in the rest, the sacred silence I composed into the symphony of your life before you drew your first breath. May you stop comparing your underground season to someone else's harvest season, because I write every testimony differently, and the story I am writing with your life has never been told before and will never be told again. And may the day come when the shoots break through the soil, when the steel rises above the skyline, when the butterfly spreads wings that were assembled in the dark, and you look back at this quiet chapter and realize it was never empty. It was the chapter where the greatest unseen miracles were taking place, one cellular transformation at a time, and the person you became in the silence was worth every single second of waiting. Now I want you to do something. Go to the comments below and write this prayer. Father, I trust what you are doing in the dark. I surrender my timeline. I believe you are working even when I see nothing, and I choose to worship the gardener before the shoots break through the soil. Write it as an act of faith spoken into the silence, because declarations made in the dark are the ones that shake heaven the most. I am reading every word. I am right here, closer than the work I am doing in the depths of your soul, and I have never stopped building what I promised to complete.